assessments. So my question is, and I'm not sure the exact number of students that have been harmed, but I think it's in the 20s. Have we sent any communication home to their parents explaining what has happened, and that we will not hold their test scores to use them for any assessments due to the fact that we screwed up as a school district?
No communication.
I really think that's an error. I'm disappointed that that hasn't been done already. These PSSAs are extremely stressful to the kids. They hate them. We put a lot of pressure on them, and then we can't administrate them right, and we have no communication to the parents that we really screwed up. We owe that to those parents to let them know what happened.
David, what do you mean by the word harm?
So, my understanding is get a PSSA test. I'm going to keep it simple. 10 questions on it. You're going through it, doing your work, all of a sudden, my understanding is the teacher said, jump out to number 9 or do number 10. You don't do a question on a test, you get a 0. And if I'm a kid and I'm told I'm going to have to do something, granted I'm a little bit on the lazy side of life, I'm not going to do it. So now I'm going to be punished for or have a lower score because the teacher told me I didn't have to do a question that I really needed to do.
They did have the opportunity
Yeah,
to complete.
Okay, walk me through this. I'm a kid. I hate PSA tests. It's a stressful day. It gets me out of my routine. I go through. I don't need to do question number 10. I go to another class. I'm like, yeah, I'm done with the PSAs today. Then somebody comes and grabs me and throws me back into the classroom, and I got to do another question. That's like me running a marathon, and I stop at mile 24, and I'm going chugging my Gatorade afterwards because I'm done. And then they say, you got to run 5 more miles. You think I'm going to do my best work in that situation? I don't think so. I do think a student's been harmed.
I think we received information from Dr. Bell saying that the Data Investigatory and Forensics team, the Bureau of Curriculum Assessment Instruction, and PDE had looked into that. Can we see that report then? Dr. Bell?
They don't do a report. They ask for our report. That's what gets submitted to them.
And did you provide that in writing to them?
Yes, the same documentation that we provided for you in a much smaller fashion.
And then what was the response?
Their response
Yeah.
was that the corrective action was permitted.
So am I the only one that thinks the students are potentially harmed and they're used for assessment and things they're not going to have their best answer because either they didn't complete it or when it was came back after they got out of the mindset of doing the PSSAs that they did as good or better?
I think that's a valid point. But just living it, I know things happen. I mean, there's always something that it is a stressful time.
I work in a hospital industry where we have extremely high standards. You give somebody the wrong medication, the wrong amount of medication, there's procedures that you need to report and things like this. So maybe I have a little higher standard from my company's perspective, but boy, if this was one of my kids, and I don't think it was, I'm not even sure what grade it is anymore, but boy, I would be calling this one of the greatest cover-ups in Northern Lebanon's history. And I'm still debating if I need to go to the Department of Education to look into this, because, I mean, Glenn, you and I had a conversation. You said you're a second grade teacher, that you watch an hour video, you have no involvement in PSSAs, and you said, you don't know how a teacher could screw this up. Right? Didn't you tell me that?
I did say that. I said that in our school, and I don't know how Northern Lebanon handles this, but every teacher in the district, and I assume that it is a statewide thing, but we are all required to take a video and a little quiz at the end, so you know the testing procedures, you know the ramifications, and it just struck me odd that, and again, I don't know who this was, I don't know what grade, but just that it did seem really out of sorts that how this happened, that somebody wouldn't know that that's not permissible. That's it.
And that's some of my concern. I mean, we've seen some crazy things, and especially over the last couple of years, where we have had things that teachers have sabotaged or tried to make this district look bad, particularly Dr. Bell. I mean, this is like the perfect setup. Let's screw up our scores this year, Dr. Bell's last year, so when the new guy, Dr. Bensel, comes in, the scores are automatically going to be approved, because if you complete all 10 questions, they're going to be doing better than if you completed only 9 questions. So I just think for the peace of mind and for the integrity of the test and the integrity of the school district, that there should be some sort of investigation to really, get into this. This kind of reminds me a little bit of Washington. I mean, if we would have been talking a year ago and said the Russians are going to influence our elections, we'd all be like, you're crazy. Now, who knows? So Congress needs to do an investigation to see what involvement the Russians do. I'd really like to know, was it one teacher? Was it many teachers? Was it an innocent mistake, or was it deliberately out to sabotage Dr. Bell's last year on our test scores so they could get better? I don't know the answer to any of those questions, but I do have an inquiring mind.
Well, from what I read from Dr. Bell's report, Dr. Bell, you can correct me if I'm wrong in my summation of it, there was one teacher that did this and called him a rogue teacher, for whatever. I don't know what their motive was. To me, I just have no idea why somebody would do that. But my feeling is that if it happened in any of the grades that the PSSA tests are taken, this had to have been found out because students had said something. And if it was something that was school-wide, you would have had students from all over the middle school and high school saying, hey, so you see, he did it to me, this other teacher did it to me. We saw none of that in this case. We saw no smoking gun, that this was more than just a teacher that made a mistake. Again, I have no idea of the motive, but if the motive was to bring down test scores because you brought down the score of 20 students, it might bring it down a little bit, but it certainly wouldn't, from all the students that we are testing, would not skew it that much that it would have a huge difference on the overall testing. So if PDE looks at that and says, that from the report this is what they see, I just don't see that the resources that you're suggesting that we put into, if we've only found that this happened in one classroom, that we're going to put resources into something that is not going to affect the overall scores next year, or this year to next year. It just doesn't reek of a conspiracy kind of a thing where you have a lot of teachers involved in this. You have one, and again, for whatever reason they wanted to do that, I could not guess. I could not guess at all. But I do believe in the people that I do know in this district as teachers. Again, I don't know who this guy or girl is, but I know their integrity is I'd stand behind them, and I'd stand behind the administrative staff that oversees them. They were the ones, this was not a cover-up, this was brought to our attention. We did not need to know this. In other words, Dr. Bell could have handled this as an administrative thing, but he chose to let us know, to fill us in what was going on within our district. And I appreciate that openness and candor on his part to let us know what was going on so we could look at it and see if it was an issue that we felt needed more attention. But I think that he's been very open. We are being very open tonight to have this discussion here as opposed to going in executive session. Kind of airing our laundry here to say something happened. It looks like it was a lone wolf, or some guy or girl, again, that decided to do this, and we don't know why, but it does not look like it's something that is rampant or is a systemic problem within the school. That's at least my opinion on this. And if there is an investigation, I think it would either be through the Department of Education, because they would be really the ones that would be the most harmed by any violation of testing procedures. And they would be the ones that would have the resources as opposed to Northern Lebanon. If you recall, when we talked to the solicitor about investigations and different things, he said any investigation, they could investigate anything, but certainly it's going to cost, and that would be on the backs of the taxpayer. And if I saw that certainly there was more evidence that there was more than just this one person, I would say, yeah, we really have to look into this, but I just don't see that. And that's, again, my personal opinion.
I would just echo as well that we did receive an additional email about some concerns with some accommodations as well. Well, I think that you have a valid concern on behalf of the students. I feel that if there is something that needs to be contacted for those families, both in the situation of the accommodations and then also the situation that you brought up, I would have faith that the administration would take care of that. And I think you're right. I think it was more of an FYI just to let us know that it was occurring and how it was being handled and that it was reported.
If you as a board want us to contact the parents of the children, we will do so, but I am going to ask a majority of the board to come to that decision.
Thank you, Dr. Bell. And just extending this, Dave, I agree that, but that letter then has to, or Dr. Bell, or I'm not sure who I'm addressing this to, but the underlying issue would be that the administration come up with some way of placing these students that is not biased by a possible low test score. And that's what would be reflected in the letter. Is that correct, Dave? Is that what you're saying?
Yes, that'd be great.
Any discussion on the letter? Well, if not, let's have a discussion and then we'll vote on.
I would just say that if we vote on that, then we should be consistent with the additional update about the accommodations not being met for the second email.
I agree.
So then it would be a compilation of both situations.
Okay. Any other comments? Do we need a motion? Good. Yep. All in favor of Dr. Bell and the administration creating a letter and looking not to bias the placement of the students affected by the PSSA tests, debacle or whatever we want to call it, please raise your hand.
What is the letter? I still don't know what the letter is going to say. I need more description of this.
Well, I was going to say that something happened and we're not going to hold their scores against the child in any placement. That's what the letter says.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Oh, let's have the vote again.
No, it's fine.
Wait, I didn't put my number.
That's fine, I had 5 of that, no problem.
Okay.
Thank you, Glenn.
Thank you for bringing that to a discussion. It was a good, healthy discussion.
And then just, that's also for the accommodation
Right, absolutely.
Is there anything else, Director England, on your plate? Thank you very much. Director Bixler,
I move item A.
I second it.
discussion? Call the vote? What do you discuss?
Lund,
Yes.
Murray,
Yes.
England,
Yes.
Heckman,
Yes.
South,
Yes.
Ray,
Yes.
Bixler,
Yes,
Howe,
Yes.
Erdman.
Yes.
All in favor.
that ends my report.
I'm sorry. You want to go? Yes. Okay.
Superintendent's report? I just thought it was good.
5 items, district enrollment figures. You have some end of the year information that are memos that go out, coming to the end of a year here at the beginning of June. Guidance updates, principals' reports, and most recent newspaper articles. That's what's in my report. If you have questions, I'll answer.
Any questions? Any questions? Reports from representatives. Director Lum?
At your settings, you'll see the April and the March's newsletter from CTC. A couple of things I thought interesting. A year ago, at this time, CTC had an enrollment figure of 613, and as of now, that enrollment figure is 653. So there's a lot of interest in what CTC is doing. I found it interesting is that Mannheim Central is changing to a career occupational curriculum, which is very individualized learning. And they sent 20 teachers to Lebanon County CTC to see what our CTC has to offer. They rate it better than their own CTC, and so because of that, they will be sending students from Lancaster County up to Lebanon to attend our CTC. Of course, that's going to be a cost to the districts, and so my question was, will it make our cost to CTC less? No, it won't make it less. But they said if there's excess in the budget, they will return that to the districts. Of course, this year that wasn't returned. They decided to keep that for another program. All the programs are filled for the fall, except one program. And I even have a son that's going to be attending this fall, so I think that's going to be finally after 5 boys and one son will attend. I had 14 candidates apply for the new director, and starting the 17th of May, the interviews will begin. For the first round of 6 candidates, the second interviews will take place on the 23rd of this month. They're hoping to have a new director in place by July 1st. That's it.
Thank you, Director Lum. And Director Murray, Intermediate 13.
Yes, the Intermediate Unit 13 presented us with a program called Project Max. It's a new program that seeks to increase the capacity of Pennsylvania schools to provide all students, including those with complex instructional needs, with maximum access to general education curriculum and PA academic standards. So that was an exciting program, and it was neat to see parent feedback and see students participating in that with instruction. The month of April also, the IU conference took place, and that was a great presentation. They kind of switched things around, and instead of visiting a school, we had every school present something exciting that's going on in their district. So we had Mrs. Hall and Dr. McInerney were there to present what's going on in first grade at Fredericksburg. So that was quite exciting, seeing what she's doing with robots, as well as the other 22 districts had presentations as well. So that was a great presentation and great representation of North Lebanon at the IU 13.
Anything else, Director Murray?
I don't think so.
Okay, thank you very much. The EITTCC, Director Heckman.
I have no update.
Director England, the Legislative PSBA liaison.
A lot of things going on, but just a couple to take note of. Budget discussions are still continuing, but now it's getting more challenging. The latest revenue report shows that the Pennsylvania General Fund revenue came in $500 million below estimate in April. So that might be affect monies coming in our direction. Also, school property taxes, there are two bills, House Bill 1213 and Senate Bill 586. Are both bills that are being considered to prohibit a taxing district from appealing an assessment based on the purchase of or sale of a property, and more things along that line. Basically, both of these could have a very negative impact on school districts. Very positive, of course, for people who own properties, but that could affect, you know, our taxes as well. Also, property tax freeze under consideration is House Bill 641. This bill will allow others to establish optional senior property tax freeze programs for residents ages 62 or older with an income of less than $60,000 annually and who have lived in Pennsylvania for more than 5 years, which sounds like something that would be very helpful for our older citizens, but again, will affect our district if this would go through. So, some things to think about.
Excuse me, Glenn, can I just add something to my IU report? There is a IU 13 education conference taking place on June 20th. Just some of the titles that caught my eye were Empowering You to End Bullying. I didn't know you could do that with Google. Older students, bigger issues, let's stop ignoring the problem. Trauma and the importance of self-regulation. And the audience for these sessions is elementary, middle school, high school, general and special educators, as well as administrators, supervisors, parents, paraprofessionals, and substitute teachers. So if anybody wants to take a look at this, you can go on their website, but there's also, I can be happy to share this booklet with you of great resource from the IU.
Thank you for that update. We now have, there's nothing else from any of the committees. We now have our public input session. We have two people that have signed up to talk. I would like to remind them that student names for privacy, obviously, are not to be said, but that our job as board members during the public input is to listen, but it is typically not our job or job, but it's in order to be fair, and we are here to listen to your concerns, but not address them at this point, but if they need to be addressed, we will address them later on as a board issue. So our first person, let's see, Jesse Snyder, for a non-resident student.
This is the third time I'm bringing this up. Back in August, I sat in the back when this individual wanted his daughter to attend a school tuition-free for living in Myerstown, and all of you unanimously voted no. In September, I came back after speaking with Dr. Bell 2 or 3 times and addressed the whole crew again, saying that she's not only playing sports, but she's also attending the district tuition-free. Several people looked, and I thought, well, I'll call the people that looked to be a little alarmed by this. I did talk to Ms. Bixler, who seemed reassuring that something would be done or it would be handled some way. At that time, I did talk about hiring a private investigator, and she said he quoted me like $2,500, and he said, don't do that. She said, don't do that. The district will take care of it. It's okay. At that point, I tried to contact Mrs. Selnex. She gave me reassurance, very similar to Ms. Bixler. She asked if I tried calling anybody else. I said, no, not yet. I felt most comfortable with Ms. Bixler first. Then I tried Nate. Nate never returned my call. Then I tried Glenn. Glenn never returned my call. And then I talked to Mrs. England as well, who said something in the realm of, this is really bad for 9/11. That was it. There was no really caring about the dollar bill. For those who don't know, what happens for a non-resident student, they have to pay, the individuals pay $10,500 for tuition to the school. So basically all this talk about $3,000 for books, $10,500 from this individual will cover that. If your checking account comes up $150, most people would say, gee, let's look into this. So there's a person out there taking $10,500 of our resources, and not one of you care enough to check into this. There's 10 people here that can do 2 simple things. The state requires it's your residency. It does not matter what is on your driver's license or what is on the lease that was provided. If any of you would see this individual one or multiple times leaving this address, that would throw flags. If you're saying you live in Fredericksburg, why are you continuously leaving Myerstown? Also, the state law requires that the individual that lives with also has the same address. Therefore, this individual's father would have to have the same address on his driver's license, which, to my knowledge, he does not through the last court hearing. This child also has 2 court documentations that follow her with the 2 addresses on. The one Myerstown address, the other is my address. So I spoke with Dr. Bell about this, and he said to me it goes by the most previous documentation, which was the lease. So therefore, the court documentation is overrode by a lease agreement. I did try talking to the solicitor. I said Mr. Klein, but I not Mr. Klein. At the beginning, he answered a couple questions, and then he said he need to talk to Dr. Bell. After that, he shut me down when he called back a couple minutes, or I think it was the next day he called back. Shut me down about all the questions I asked. The only person that gave me any reassurance that he would do anything, it was Dr. Z from Elko School District. I have called everybody and anybody you can possibly think of to be involved in this, and I think it's really bad that a guy that is outside the district cares more about following the laws than our own school board and our own superintendent. So if anybody would like to see any information, I don't have it with me, but I'd more be willing to meet or discuss any other stuff. Realizing there's only 20-some days left, but it is what it is.
Thank you very much. And let's go to our next person, who is Nate Morgan.
Yes, sir.
General comments.
Thank you, Mr. President. I know it's late, and I know our attention span is probably shot. And I also know that my general comments, will probably fall on deaf ears and forgotten a few minutes after we all leave. But I want to congratulate the board, the elected board members, and the representatives who have been maybe appointed to the school board, that they can carry the district in the future in the next steps. Because I know that as the board, and hopefully as the residents or the constituents, you will be asking the same questions as the previous board members, as Dr. Bell has, as his staff has, his administrators have, and as his teachers have. The same questions that you need to be asking yourself as a board. And I've heard a lot of those similar questions tonight. The reason why I say those questions are important, because hopefully you received the information from Dr. Bell about his past years, his accomplishments, that not only he has assisted with, but the administrators have assisted with, the staff has assisted with, and the teachers have assisted with. And they're outstanding. If you had a chance to read them and look over them, they are truly outstanding. And that's why this board, as it takes those steps forward, needs to ask the same questions that Dr. Bell has asked and the previous board members. Okay? This board and the selected board members are being represented by various constituents from their areas. They're not, hopefully, not representing parents that are self-centered and among themselves. Hopefully they're not representing groups of self-parents or self-indulging parents. And hopefully they're not representing board members that are self-righteous and self-indignant for their own part. Because these people, the selected people, need to ask those questions. What are they? Number one, what do we need to do for our students to be successful? What do we need to do? What resources, number two, what resources do we need to provide them to be successful? Maybe we need to get them typewriters or keyboard. Maybe we need some sewing machines for some kids to be successful. We may need to do that. All right, that's a resource. And finally, the question you guys need to ask yourself, what can I do individually? What can I do, Miss England, Miss Sell, Mr. Howe, Miss Herdman? What do I need to do for our kids to be successful? Do I need to get $3,000 for that vocabulary for those sixth graders to be successful? Should I? Resources. What do I need to do? And finally, you need to ask yourself, do I really care? Do I care about these kids? Because if you don't care, then we're just pissing in the wind. Thank you.
Thank you. That was the only two public comments we had this evening. We're now going to go into new business, and Dave, I'd like to bring that up about the exchange student.
So I think we all received the email today that somebody requested, why don't you do it, Lenny?
No, it's just that, no, everybody has it.
Okay.
I'm just saying everybody.
Okay.
About the exchange student.
They have it.
It's an email.
And that the request is for an exchange student that would be 16 years old in February. And our policy is at the beginning of the year, they need to be 16 years old. So if we would allow this exchange student to come, it would violate our school policy and we would need to grant an exception. I think we're all very in favor of exchange students. I think throughout the years they've added a positive influence to our school and an opportunity for everyone to learn culture, a different culture. But I do think the policy is a wise one to have a minimum age thing. So I would not be for violating or changing our school policy.
I would agree with that. I just feel like that's really young. And, I mean, if she would have the opportunity to come the following year, I think, great, let's do it the following year.
Dave, are we voting on strong?
I just think we owe it to the person who wrote the letter to get back to them in a timely manner, and I'd be fine with
Anything administration wants to add?
Actually, we can't really add anything. It is your policy. We can't violate it. So this is really your decision. We're not permitted to bring in a 16-year-old student who has a foreign exchange, or I'm sorry, less than a 16-year-old foreign exchange student according to your policy.
Take a vote. Just hands vote. Good. All in favor of not changing the policy? Raise your hand. Thank you, Dave, for reminding us of that. If we have
So Glenn, you'll take care of responding to that clear internet request as board president, as a board response that we're maintaining the policy. I just want to make sure that we do respond to them. Or is that
administration,
who was the letter direct? I'm sorry.
Dr. Bell.
Dr. Bell, and board members.
The individuals where we can't approve it.
Okay, so we just let them know.
No. Somebody's going to need to communicate with
Okay,
them.
okay.
I will do that if you could get me their contact information.
Thank you.
We now have a presentation.
I think Steve has something, don't you, Steve?
Sure. Want to do that? And then you want to do that first, I think.
Behind me, everyone sees two lamps. It is a tradition, long-held tradition at Northern Lebanon that administrators and/or board members that have served the district are given this as a small token of our appreciation. So I'd like to take this time to express the board's gratitude for the years of service that Dr. Don Bell and Mary Gerhardt have given to Northern Lebanon School District. Don's 17 years of service and Mary's many years. In fact, Mary, length of service, and no, Mary, you can relax, I won't tell how long that service was. But it does show the deep commitment that she and Don have given to the district. In fact, Mary welcomed me to my first interview here for a job many years ago. The board has a tradition of giving the lamp in recognition of service to Northern Lebanon, and we are proud to do this evening. In giving these lamps, the board of directors would like to wish only the best to Don and Mary as they enter retirement. And congratulations for all your hard work and dedication to our students and the community. Thank you, Don and Mary. And that is certainly heartfelt. And at this time, the lamps are from the board as our tradition. We do have some board members that would like to do something additional, and if they would like to present that would be great.
Yeah. Tonight, as I sit here, I was reminded as these students were standing in front of us why I serve on this board. The most important asset I believe that we have as a district is our students. Over the nearly 16 years that I've served, many decisions have been made that reflected what I thought was best for the students. I've seen great things happen, and along the way, my kids have benefited from the decisions that the board made. Serving on the board has allowed me to serve with some great board members that knew what it was to give their best to advance the district. They had great judgment. They were men and women with a wealth of wisdom. As great board members, they were motivated by the vision that was cast in front of them, and they worked hard to see that vision accomplished. They had courage to make the difficult decisions. These are the traits of a great board member, and I had the privilege to serve with people like that. Last evening, I was counting up with the previous boards, probably close to 14 different board members that I've had the privilege of serving with. I believe that our district is at a crossroads. I say this carefully, but we have become a board that will micromanage. We've become a board that is being led by the union. And I have traveled on this journey far enough, and as far as I can go. I see the future, and I know the direction that I feel best for this district is not the direction that the majority of the board has chosen. I feel it is best to resign effective tonight and allow you to choose a member that will be more in line with the direction that you have chosen to take. Your work will go on. Your works will follow you. The ball is now fully in your court. The outcome of the decisions that you make will be what you have to live with. Again, it has been an honor to serve our great community. As a resident for over 20 years, I've come to love and appreciate so many of our good people. Thankfully, my work continues with the community, and I will be blessed to continue serving them. And as I close tonight, I need to say that it's been a great honor to work with Mary and Dr. Bell. One of the kindest, gentlest ladies that I know was my Aunt Mary. And when I first met you, Mary, I thought of my Aunt Mary. And you haven't disappointed me. You've been kind and gentle, gracious, always encouraging. And I thought, wow, isn't that neat when you could look at somebody and see what type of person they are, and they don't discourage you, or they don't, discourage you. They don't let you down. You've been that person, and I appreciate that. Of course, in June, my fourth son will have completed all 12 years of school under your leadership, Dr. Bell. And they were honored to receive their diplomas from you. Philip is here tonight. In a few more weeks, he'll be the number 4th to receive the diploma from you. You have been an incredible example to them. They've seen you in the tough times. They've seen you when crap was hitting the fan and you stood tall. You didn't lower yourself, you didn't stoop yourself to what was coming your direction. And my kids have seen that, and they have appreciated that. As a matter of fact, one of my sons even chose you as a mentor in his senior year. You have served this district well. You served tirelessly with integrity, character, and honor. And I've said it many times before, you never have led us astray. You never have led us astray. You've kept us on the path that we needed to go. Your wealth of knowledge when it comes to legal issues have kept us out of trouble, I'm sure, many, many times. You were quick to give others and were willing to give others credit, and you were also quick to take the blame when others should have taken that. Right was always right, wrong was always wrong, and you expected nothing less from the people you served with. When your time is up at the end of June, you will be leaving this district in a much better condition, much better shape than when you found it so many years ago. Even though our paths have crossed for just a short time, and we were part of, it's good to know that we were part of something great that was Northern Lebanon. Your wife, Lisa, your children, your grandchildren deserve our thanks for allowing you to give the best years of your life to our district. And I hope the days ahead are better than you can ever even imagine. At this time, I will pass my letter of resignation over to our president. Thank you.
I think tonight's a night to reflect. It was 8 years ago, around this time, that the NLEA gave me their endorsement, and I want to thank them for that. I thought that was vital in someone who was not that well known in the community at the time to get elected. I'd like to thank my family for the sacrifices that they have made. This has not been their idea of a great position of service. I'd like to thank the voters in the communities for their trust in allowing me to serve 2 terms. I think, Steve, you put it very well, and I can't match your words, but want to thank Dr. Bell and Mary for their friendship and their guidance and mentoring me as a young board member, and sometimes I didn't want to be mentored, but I really do appreciate that. I think I've served along some great board members, Steve Lung, Dr. Mattel, Sue Warner, Brian Wolf. And I think 2 of the wisest board members I've ever been around were Dr. Bill Lovitz and Bonnie Bixler. Bonnie, I think you are the perfect board member, student, teacher, administrator, taxpayer, your family's own businesses. You're well connected. I don't know what else anyone could ever ask from a board member. Effective at 11:59 p.m. tonight, 5/9/17, I'll no longer be a board member. Some of you are probably scratching your heads and saying, Dave, you're not a quitter. Your term's not up to November. Why are you giving up in May? And to those, you're right, I'm not a quitter, but I do think now is the appropriate time, and here's my reason why. I'm concerned of the lack of the transparency on this board. Not too long ago, 2 board members tried to deny my access to talk about the low test scores in the middle school, which I still scratch my head about. I think this country was founded on freedom of speech, and especially a board to discuss things like that. And why you would deny my access, I still have no idea. This week, an ELA teacher emailed 5 board members and left 4 board members and the superintendent off the email chain. Never did the president or any other board member forward those emails. Where's the transparency? There's an overabundance of support by this board for the union, which has harmed our students and taxpayers, and I don't see a path to repair that. I think this was a year for a 0% tax increase, and not doing so is a disservice to our members of communities. And I am still complex that you will not address the issues if you think they're safety issues and just keep the money in the bank. If you truly think there's issues that are harming our students, then spend the $2 million to fix that. Dr. Bensel's willingness to recognize only a portion of the Northern Lebanon School Board of a total of 9. Only willing to communicate with 9 board members and not the other 3. I find that to be unethical and unprofessional with many stakeholders. If you do not believe me, have Christy Sekelic do a right-to-know request on his Conrad Weiser email account and see for yourself. I'm told those emails are not as bad as Hillary Clinton's, but runs a close second. What's next? Starting tomorrow, you're going to need to select our replacements. Please have respect for this office, as all previous boards have had in the past. School Code 24 PS 3-222, that a board member has good moral conduct. I think it's in addition to good moral conduct, the candidate should possess a high school diploma. Christy Sekelic called me out.
That's not my name. If you're going to talk about me, you
transgender
might want to
issue,
say my name
saying
correctly.
something in the effect that I didn't understand the issue because I wasn't transgender enough. Great point, and very true. I think we can apply that logic to filling this position. How can somebody without a high school diploma represent a school district? It doesn't mean a person with a GED can't be successful. Bill Gates, founder of Microsoft, is a dropout of Harvard. I don't believe Mr. Gates should be on the Harvard board. The other area falls under good moral conduct, ethics, integrity, and trust. Nathaniel Finken has been written up in the Forbes magazine, which discusses his lifetime ban from the Financial Industry Regulatory Authority. His LinkedIn page never shows that he worked for Morgan Stanley, where the violation occurs. He lists as a volunteer experiences on his LinkedIn page that at Northern Lebanon High School from September 2008 to the present as a scorekeeper and announcer. Put in a right-to-know request and see how much Mr. Finken gets paid to be a volunteer. Feel free to Google his name. There are many more interesting tidbits. I've never claimed finances are my wheelhouse. I've been brought up better not to brag about my strengths. Mr. Finken accused Dr. Bell of cherry-picking propaganda in his Facebook stories. I wish I could be so kind enough to use the same line, but there are too many alternative facts to know who the real Mr. Finken is. I think the Finken ship is a sinking ship. I'm also concerned with Sekelic as a candidate. Someone that put that many right-to-know requests in the Northern Lebanon School District, always claiming she found the smoking gun, and Dr. Bell and his board members were going to jail. Please put in your own right-to-know requests asking for a 55 right-to-know requests. They'll not be as interesting as Mr. Finken's Google search. I'm disappointed that she never gave me her petition of over 100 names out of the 15,000 names to sign it. Scary, she threatened if I didn't resign, I'd be sent to the Common Pleas Court, which the Patriot News kind of said that can't happen. That she didn't realize or couldn't comprehend the policy on unlawful harassment only applied to administration. Any harassment applied to sexual, religious, and race, and had nothing to do with me making a fool out of myself trying to get some kids playing time in a 35-point blowout basketball game. I would think your liberal agenda would support playing time for everyone. However, I do forgive you for whatever involvement you had in the vandalizing of my property. So board, please pick candidates that can uphold this office. The board, you have a higher stand in the voting public. You know the truth about these candidates. Goals for the board. Educate, train yourself into becoming a healthy board. You need a lot of professional development. Stop doing what's best for you and your family. Start to look out for all the 2,300 students we have. Stop trying to blackmail interviewees for jobs. Stop trying to block administration's well-thought-out ideas. We should have never shut down the Viking Academy, offering free tutoring for elementary students because it was inconvenient to the union. Their alternative cost the taxpayers $10,000 and charged the fee to the parents with little to no educational benefit. Start taking care of the classified in our administration. Our teachers are the highest paid. Our classified and our administrators are some of the lowest paid. in Lebanon and Lancaster County. You need to learn to stand up to the union, not to be run over by them on every issue. Learn to respect and honor what the students and taxpayers needs. All you've done since you've been elected is give the largest pay raise ever in the history of the school district to the already highest paid teachers in Lebanon and Lancaster County. You need to fix it and fix it soon. We would have money to fix the curtain, buy 3 vans for the biology department, hire additional teachers, but you have not been able to do that if you continue to having the highest paid raises in the Lebanon and Lancaster area. The majority of taxpayers and parents believe the salaries should correlate with their test results. I know this will be difficult to accomplish due to 3 board members, active union members, and another being a former teacher. Remember, the contract was only passed 6-3. During the interview process for the superintendent, we found out that many school districts that candidates come from have their seniors receive their associate degrees before their high school diploma. NL was on the track and the cutting edge under Dr. Bell's leadership and dreamed about an associate degree before high school diploma. But our union is the real dream. I asked the union once if we had a senior student who was eligible to take an online Harvard biochemistry class, would you count it toward their science requirement? After 10 minutes of debate among themselves, they said, probably. Probably. A Harvard class that you wouldn't count toward graduation? Lebanon School District has hack professors come into the classroom to offer classes. That's increased the number of classes we offer in the classroom. Let's catch up to those other school districts in PA that offer a chance to get an associate degree before your high school degree. Here's a Lebanon County story. A Cedar Crest graduate goes to an area college, graduates in accounting. However, he doesn't have 150 college credits needed to take the CPA exam. No public accounting firm will hire him. So he needs to go back to his alma mater to get his MBA, a 50-year college at his expense. An NL grad goes to college and will graduate with 150 credits because of his NL college in the classroom, allowing the student to save money at the expense of a 50-year college. And if that student wants an MBA, most likely their employer will subsidize the tuition. Finally, do not be ashamed of God. Do not put him under a bushel basket, but let his light shine. I am humbled to be the last board member to say a prayer. God will honor this district, but you need to honor God. Many of you are Christians, and I am not questioning your faith, but it appears you lock your beliefs up on a Tuesday night. Why? Because you're afraid of a lawsuit? Look around the world, the Middle East, China, and Africa, and what their faith costs them. Be brave and trust God, and He will give you the strength to succeed and do the right thing. I will continue to pray for NL and all its stakeholders, particularly the board. God bless.
I'm last, okay? I'm a lady of very few words. I love this district. I've been in it a long time, but there's one thing I love more. It's my family. Tonight I sit here and it's my mom's birthday. It's her 82nd birthday today. And I miss the family thing because I'm here at a board meeting. And I have a 10-year-old nephew who's playing in a very important baseball game tonight. And here I am sitting at a board meeting and I'm missing him playing. And I ran for this board because I thought I had a lot to offer. But after a while, I didn't know how much I had to offer anymore. And I decided a long time ago, and some of you knew it, and I stated, it's not for me. It's not. And it wasn't in the very beginning. It's something I tried, but it wasn't me, okay? I am a one-term person, and I'm not a quitter. And yet, in my mind, I think I am quitting, but again, my family's more important, and I decided that it's time. I wish the people coming on this board a lot of luck, and, I hope you do great things, because I do have a nephew that's in 4th grade, and I love him dearly.